I basically was having a conversation with a good friend of mine yesterday, and I've done a live on this before where we talked about the differences between spirituality and religion and why so many people are making the transition to be more spiritual, right? And I want to kind of talk about it. I know that there's a lot of people who are in a new space where they're either trying to make a decision on whether they are going to tap in to be, more on the spiritual side, or whether they are going to do away with religion completely, or just don't really know where to go, what to do, or what decision to make. So I want to kind of talk about certain things. I will open up the floor for those who may want to join the live and give their own experiences or their own 2 cents on what made them be more spiritual than religious. I'm going to, of course, tell my story as well. I've shared it before, but I'll share a couple things today as well on why I made the transition between, being more spiritual after growing up in the church and, basically having that be like my lifestyle. Okay, the church in my family is a business. Okay, um, it is literally a business. It is literally the end all be all. Okay, from birth. All right, I always explain it like how, like on Lion King, where they took Simba and held him up. Like that's basically how it was when I was born. Okay, my grandmother had a church in the basement, and when I was born, my grandfather took me into the church that was in the basement and like laid me on the altar and like the whole nine. So for my family dynamic, religion started at birth. There was no like, you make your own decision, or we're just gonna raise you just blanketed, just generalized, and then when you get older you can kind of pick for yourself. There was no decisions in my black ass household. Okay, you had to go to church. There was no choice. You didn't. There was no, I don't want to do this, I don't want to go. None of that. It was what you had to do. Um, and because my grandmother was the pastor and she owned the church, eventually we moved from the basement of their house to having an actual storefront church in DC. And I can remember being so young, growing up in my family's church and not knowing what the hell is going on, not knowing what they're talking about for real, but being so scared of the devil. That's the only thing that I knew, and that's the only thing that I was scared about. That's the only information that I had. All I knew is that there was a devil, and it's scary, and I can go to hell, and I'm going to be burning forever. Okay? Um, and it kind of put this damper over my life where I was just afraid to do shit. I was afraid to make mistakes. I was afraid to just blink wrong. You know what I'm saying? I was scared of the dark. It was traumatizing for a kid, to be honest. When you kind of look back at it, it's like, why would you teach a kid about something like that at such a young age? It didn't make sense. But anyway, being born and raised or brought up in the church, as a kid, again, a lot of things didn't make sense, but I did it because it was tradition. It was just what we do. On Sundays, we went to church. On, Mondays, we had meetings for the ministers or the people who, had positions in the church. And on Tuesdays, we had choir practice or something. And on Wednesdays, we had Bible study. Thursdays, maybe nothing was going on. Friday, maybe nothing was going on, unless we was doing revival. If it was revival week, we had church Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay, and then of course Sunday was regular church, but then we would have multiple services. I still got PTSD. Okay, multiple services in church all day, from the time the sun came up to the time the sun went down, we was in that thing. Whether we was having another service at our church or whether we was having another service at somebody else's church. Baby, we was in church all day. Okay? All day. Sun up, sundown, all day. Okay? But I think I liked when we had other services just because I could eat. You know what I'm saying? Either somebody would cook or, I'm from DC, so they'll order some curry out, a little chicken, fries, tomato sauce, salt, pepper, ketchup. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't mad at that. But I remember having a lot of questions about, why certain things were the way that they were in the Bible, right? Certain things didn't make sense. There were certain contradictions that just didn't make sense to me, And I thought that maybe I was tripping a little bit, but it didn't make sense. And I would ask certain questions. And I remember my mother or my grandmother saying, if they couldn't answer the question, they would say, oh, God don't want us to know everything. And I'm like, what? God don't want us to know everything? That can't be the answer. You know what I'm saying? Just say you don't know instead of saying God don't want you to know. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference in that. So you're telling me God don't want me to know information that can help me understand God better? It's like, what? Like, you gotta, right, you gotta tell me something. You gotta make something make sense here. Like, what are we talking about? God, if you knew everything God knew, then, you know what I'm saying, God wouldn't have no purpose, and God, you can't know everything. I'm like, I'm not trying to know everything. I'm just trying to get the answer to this simple question that I got. Like, what are you talking about? Okay. So with that being said, until I'm gonna say through high school, I didn't really shake the table too much. Like, I would just sit in church and let them tell me whatever they told me. And because it was my grandmother, like, I feel like it's a difference between when it's like you go to a church and you're not related to the people. But when you're related and it's your grandma, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's a trust. There's an innate trust that kind of comes with that, right? So I used to always tell people, like, my grandmama and Jesus are best friends. And if anybody's going to heaven, it's my grandma. You know what I'm saying? So whatever she say, it got to be true. It got to be legit. It got to be law. You know what I'm saying? It got to be law, obviously. Hey, Pooh. And it maybe wasn't, but that's how I took it because that's what was presented to me. It's like my grandmama up there, she wouldn't lie to me. My grandma wouldn't lie to me about what I need to do and how I need to move and things of that nature. She got to be telling the truth. Whatever. Didn't really take time to read the Bible for myself during that time because, again, my whole trust was in my grandmother's breakdown of things. And anytime I had questions about things that didn't make sense, I wasn't, responded to with like, oh, let's sit and figure this out. It was more so like, this is what it is, whether it makes sense or not, and you got to accept it for what it is. So it was like, what the hell is the point of asking questions if the questions that I have are not really going to be answered and you're going to basically tell me like it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? We're not breaking it down. You're not saying, okay, let's take our time with this. None of that, right? And it was very, very confusing as a child because you're trying to figure out like, okay, especially the older you get, you start going through more life, you start having more life experiences, and you're like, okay, I'm having a little adversity, whether it was at school, whether it was something going on at home, whether it was just, having mental things that I was going through. So then you start to kind of desire like some type of correction or some type of direction or some type of help, some type of assistance, right? The older you get, like being a little kid in church, you're not really paying attention because you're not really going through, you could still be going through things, but in your mind, you're not necessarily looking that deeply, into things. versus when you're a little bit older and you can identify that you're having certain problems and issues and you're looking for some type of relief, you're looking for some type of help or assistance. So the older I got, the more questions I had and the less answers I was getting. And that's just not a good combination, especially when this is something that you do every freaking day. You know what I'm saying? Like, we was at church all week long. There was no off days. If we wasn't at church, even at home, we was having conversations about the church, about what was going on in the church. So there was never a moment where church wasn't the focal point, of our lives. We were just, everything was consumed with church, right? And then it kind of made it seem like there was no room for error. There was no room for mistakes. There was no room for challenges or lessons or understanding of errors or mistakes or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had to be, I don't want to say perfect, but because we was like the first family, there had to be a certain aesthetic. You know what I'm saying? It had to look a certain type of way. Even though my family was fucked up behind closed doors. In front of the church, we had to look a certain type of way. We had to look like we had it all together, like we was all cool, like everybody was singing Kumbaya. And that was so not the case. So it taught me to also hide and live within secrets and to put on a mask. And I didn't realize that that's why I learned how to put on a mask until I got older and I started going through my own healing process. And I had to look back like, damn, that shit taught me that you can't show up real, because if you do, grandma gonna be upset, or if you do, this is gonna happen. The people gonna be looking at you a certain type of way, and they gonna have shit to say. They gonna talk about the family. And my grandmother was so prideful to the point where she didn't want anybody to talk about her family. She didn't want anybody to look at us as anything less than, whatever perception she was trying to, or facade she was trying to create. And it took the human experience out of what we were going through, you know what I'm saying? And for my grandmother to be so transparent while preaching and, about her life story and the things she went through and stuff like that, it was like hypocritical. It's like, okay, you can get up here and be transparent about the things that you went through, but then when it comes to the family and the breakdown that's happening behind closed doors, there's no transparency. Like, we not even cool. Y'all got in a whole ass argument and cussed each other out like a motherfucker last night, and then y'all in church holding hands and singing Kumbaya in front of these people, like y'all really cool. It would just like really drive me crazy. Like, I couldn't stand it. So eventually, I think when I was about 18, I started to get more responsibility in the church, because again, it was a family church. So it's like a family business. The family is usually the employees. So it's a family church. So we had shit to do. So I was over I would write all of the plays for the holidays. I would sometimes be over like the dance ministry, or sometimes do like ushering, or I sung every Sunday in a praise team, and like different responsibilities and stuff. And I started to feel like a hypocrite, you know what I'm saying, doing a lot of those things, knowing that I had questions that weren't being answered. Getting up there singing to people all of these songs when I knew that I wasn't secure in my belief. You know what I'm saying? I started to feel like a hypocrite, and I didn't like that. So it pushed me to start doing research. And that's where things got interesting. I went first to look through the Bible for myself. Certain certain scriptures that maybe my grandmother went over in church or things of that nature, or scriptures that I heard 1,000 times, I would look at those first because I was familiar with them. And then I started to like venture off to just reading the whole thing, within context, because church people love to be like, you gotta know the context. But it's like, you can know the context and it still makes these stories fucked up. Like, reading the context of why a whole bunch of people was slaughtered doesn't really negate the fact that they were slaughtered. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about? Reading the context of why, grown as men could do things with little girls doesn't negate that it can happen. You know what I'm saying? The context doesn't really change the overall energy and message behind it and the action. So it's just like, what the hell? That, if anything, it makes it worse, So I started reading for myself, and I thought, because my grandmother would always say, God's word never comes back void, right? You can go and search all over and look into all of these different things, and you're still going to find your way back to God, to Christianity. And that's what I believed. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself permission to go outside of what I've been taught, to do things outside of what I've been shown, right? And kind of do it my way, look into things that will be quote unquote taboo, right? And see what I find. If it is truth, then it's truth. If it leads me back to church, it leads me back to church. I didn't go into looking things up really to get away from the church. If anything, I went into looking things up to solidify my belief in Christianity. And that's not what happened. It's not what happened at all. If anything, that shit catapulted me so far away from Christianity once I started to read the Bible for myself and started to understand a lot of what it was saying. And I was appalled. Okay? Wow. Like, what? This is why y'all kept telling me y'all ain't got the answers, because these answers is crazy. You know what I'm saying? These answers make things look a certain type of way. Can I explain more about what, babe? Y'all can ask me questions in the comments. Just give me specifics so I can kind of, go in the right direction with my answers. But yeah, there were a lot of different texts in the Bible that just gave me the ick. It actually made me ashamed, because church taught me to look down on others who didn't share the same beliefs, while also hypocritically talking about love and understanding and forgiveness. You know what I'm saying? And this is not a video to shit on Christianity, but just to tell the truth of what, it really looks like, especially when you are a part of the first family. Explain why your grandmother was cursing y'all out at the church. It could be a number of reasons. You know what I'm saying? It could be a number of reasons. Anything. It could be family business. It could be like this kind of goes into generational curses, because before my grandmother started her church, she had 4 children. And they went through a lot of trauma. You know what I'm saying? They went through different things. Her children went through different things. She went through different things with her mom and her personal life and stuff. So when you don't heal trauma, when you don't work on them, you pass it on. Or, when it gets swept under the rug. Because in my family, I don't know about y'all family, but my family was all about what happens in this house stays in this house. What happens in this family stays in this family. You don't go and start telling outside people about what we got going on in here. This is our business. Either we fix it or we don't. But either way, you shut up about it. Right? So that was the standard in my family. So because of that, there was a lot of trauma that was not dealt with. And you can't just start a church and start to be super religious and think that all of those things go away. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't pray your curses and your trauma away. You have to actually work through those things, like piece by piece, problem by problem, trauma by trauma. You have to literally put the work in. And they didn't really understand that because they were so religious that they, just didn't go with the right way of doing things. And therapy was very taboo and still kind of is taboo in the Black community, especially when it comes to religion and things of that nature. Thank y'all for the gifts. It's so taboo. So, it's like you only go to therapy if you're crazy or if, you're out of your mind or something. It's like, no, you go to therapy when you need therapy. What the hell? You go to therapy because you need help. You need assistance. There's some shit going on here. Like, what? So it was like nobody was getting help outside of reading the Bible and praying, and talking to God or Jesus or whoever they believe in. There was no professional help. There was no outside correction or assistance or none of that. It was just we either pray about it, talk to God about it, read the scripture, or we just don't acknowledge it at all. So my mom and her siblings, they had a lot of issues and still have a lot of issues that they have to work through and had to work through at that time that never really got solved. So you're trying to run a church while the family is dysfunctional, and then you're inviting that energy into the church, and it's not working. It's not gonna work. Like, it's just not gonna work. And I didn't like it because to me it was like, we come in church and every Sunday and we're preaching that, we're supposed to be hand in hand and together and this and that. But in reality, y'all beefing. You know what I'm saying? In reality, y'all don't like each other or y'all have whatever issues y'all have. Hold on. It was another question here. I'm doing the questions in order, so feel free to type them in the comments. About what you found when you read the word for yourself. So there was a couple of scriptures that really turned me off. Specifically there was, ones about when a little girl basically gets her menstrual, that then she's able to, okay, the rest. There were certain things there were certain just common sense things that didn't make sense. Like if there was a scripture where the devil and Jesus was talking or the devil and God was talking, who the fuck was there to record every single word verbatim? You know what I'm saying? Like shit like that just didn't make sense to me. Like did Jesus go tell somebody, hey, this is word for word, bar for bar, what me and the devil talked about? It's like certain stuff like that just, was there a camera crew? You know what I'm saying? Like, was there somebody taking notes? Like, common sense stuff just didn't make sense to me. Or how, just the creation story, or how basically we are sinners. You know what I'm saying? Like how in the beginning of the Bible it talks about, Adam and Eve and the serpent coming into the garden and tricking Eve into eating the apple and things of that nature. And what disturbed me with that was who allowed the serpent into the garden. You know what I'm saying? If God controls all and is the author of everything that happens and nothing goes out of the will of God, right? All of those things are in the Bible. Then it would be his responsibility that the damn serpent got into the garden. He wanted this to happen, right? Because it don't just happen. He wanted it to happen. Serpent got into the garden. He wanted this to happen, right? Because it don't just happen. He wanted it to happen. Hold on, I had a phone call. They talk about free will. How do we have free will if God controls everything? How do we have free will if the option is you either do what I say or you go to hell? That's not free will. That's an ultimatum. An ultimatum is not free will, because at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense. So a lot of things just didn't make sense to me. There were several scriptures that was just like, what the fuck is going on here? Um, and I just didn't feel comfortable, being so proud of certain things that were in the Bible. That is like, what is there to be proud about? What is there to be, boastful about? Why should I recommend this to somebody else? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just didn't feel good with that. Okay, let me make sure I'm going in order. What answers do you feel you found when you read the word for yourself? Answers in regards to, I feel like the answers that I got weren't the answers I was looking for. I was looking for things to make sense. And if anything, the answers that I got is that the shit don't make sense. Like, it did the opposite of what I wanted it to do, if we're being honest. Like, my whole purpose in pursuing deeper understanding of the Bible was so that I can feel more confident in being a Christian. And it made me feel less confident. It made me not even want to do the shit no more. Like, in the Bible, does it talk about being created in God's image? Yes, it does. Even down to like the story of Jesus, right? Like, Jesus literally came to do away with the church, to do away with religions, to do away with people putting themselves above other people, to say that you can go to the source of God directly. So it's like, for a lot of Christians to be so gung-ho about Jesus, y'all not even following what the man came to say. Like, he came to tell y'all that all the shit that y'all believe in and the ways that you was doing it was wrong in the first place. So to be pushing something that in one, sense, and then be reading the text that says something completely different would like blow my mind. It's like, Jesus wasn't religious. You know what I'm saying? Jesus wasn't a Christian. He didn't believe in religion. He wasn't a religious person. If anything, he came to do away with priests and preachers and things of that nature. So it's just like a lot of stuff is just, again, contradictory and doesn't make sense. As a PK, how did you determine what % of the Bible is a metaphor versus what is actual? So growing up in church, everything was factual. There's no such thing as metaphors for real in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything was factual. So now I look at the Bible in the sense of metaphors. Like, I don't tell people to not read it, because I feel like all text, you can get something from any text. You know what I'm saying? If you can pull something from it that helps you, I mean, I don't care what book you read. You can read Computers for Dummies. It might be something in it that you need. You know what I'm saying? Like, I look at it as a book. I look at it the same way I would look at any other book. That's how I view the Bible now. Before, I viewed it as like the end all be all, every single word is exactly what it was supposed to be, and yada yada yada. But now it's just another group of text. And if anything, I look at it more astrological than I do religious. As far as like the representations, like the 12 disciples, I look at that as like the 12 zodiacs. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of stories about stars and astrology, and you got crystals in there, you got incense lighting, and all types of things that we would deem spiritual. You have a lot of magic in the Bible, especially Jesus. Like, when Jesus came on the scene, you talking about magic, you talking about spell work. You know what I'm saying? Which is why I never understood why, when I did start to lean more into spirituality, why everybody was so uptight in the ass about it. Because I'm like, have y'all read, some of the stories about Jesus taking mud and helping people see and putting niggas' ears back on? Like, babe, that's magic. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's spell work. So like different things like that, I would see and I would be like, this isn't what I was taught, And then when you start to research and you learn that all religions come from spirituality, it's like, it makes sense now. Why there's so many similarities in some of these texts. I felt exactly how you did until I opened myself to the Holy Spirit for myself. Well, this is what I say, right? Energy, when people say Holy Spirit, that's nothing more than energy, right? And energy is subjective. Energy is subjective. When I was in church, I most definitely felt certain things, but it wasn't because of what they tried to convince me that it was. It was because I was feeling energy. We all feel energy, right? Like, for example, like music. Music can make people cry. Music can make people happy. Music can make people sad. Music can heal your soul. You know what I'm saying? It's what you feel. And the music doesn't necessarily have to be religious. It doesn't have to be about anything in particular as far as magic or any of that stuff. It just is energy, and you feel what you feel based on how it resonates for you. And growing up in church, if you felt anything, it was automatically accredited to their version of God, right? Not because of the energy being passed from one person to another, not because of the vibration in the room, because everybody is on the same page on one accord. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a magic, there's an energy, there's a vibration that happens when you get a whole bunch of melanated people in a room and everybody is on a frequency, a certain frequency. Like, it doesn't have to be in church, and it doesn't have to be about anything religious. But there's just a magic, so to speak, a vibration that kind of happens. And when I started to feel it outside of church, that's when I knew, like, oh, this is not anything religious. It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is. And this is not to knock anybody's beliefs. If you believe in that version of God, then kudos to you. You know what I'm saying? That's on you. But I've moved out of the whole trying to be right. You know what I'm saying? My version is right, your version is wrong. My version is right, your version is wrong. That's a waste of time. Like, there's so many different religions, babe. Like, there's people, and I was having this conversation too, with my mom, who is actually a pastor now. But even she had to agree, like, there's people in the world that have never even heard of Jesus. They've never even heard of a Bible. They haven't even heard of a cell phone, let alone a Bible. You know what I'm saying? They ain't never even had electric. They still burning wood and making homemade candles. Okay? So it's like, to even think that you have to fall under a certain umbrella in order for you to be accepted somewhere, or in order for you to have, it's like, that doesn't make sense. And that was another thing about that kind of pushed me away from religion, is it's like a cult. Like, religions are cults. It doesn't matter how you frame it. It doesn't matter how you look at it. That shit is a cult. It is what it is. That shit is a cult. That's why the end times ain't come yet, because everyone has to hear about Jesus and use their free will. That's based on your religion, but that's not reality. That's why I say that shit is a cult. Respectfully. Like, that's why I say that shit is a cult. There are people who will never hear about Jesus. It will never happen. It is what it is. It simply is what it is. There's people who are untouched by modern society. That, literally, there are certain tribes who won't even let people into their areas because they want to remain unbothered and untouched by modern society. You can't force something on somebody and then call it free will. That's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And if it's something that we're all supposed to know, then we would know it. That's like love. Love is not something that you have to, you have to hear about it in order to know it. No. Love is universal. No matter where you go, whether you got lights or not, whether you got electric or not, whether you got heat in your house or not, there's love. That's not it's not something that you have to have some people come and tell you about. It's a natural vibration that we all share, no matter where you are, no matter where you live, no matter what language you speak, no matter what color you are. That's something that we all know, right? So I look at it like this. If Christianity itself was true and we were all supposed to know about Jesus, then we would all know about Jesus. The same way, no matter where you go, astrology is astrology. The sun is important, the moon is important, the stars are important. Every single place on this earth knows about the sun, the moon, and the stars. They all have some type of information, some type of knowledge, no matter where you go. And it's been documented that everybody knows about astrology. Everybody understands the importance of the seasons. So, knowledge that does not have to be taught makes more sense to me being truth rather than something that was created and manipulated. Because if we go into the text of the Bible, first of all, you don't have the whole Bible. None of y'all had a whole Bible. That's number one. So to even try to say this has to be this way and that has to be this way and blah, 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 you don't even have all the context. Ain't none of y'all walking around with 66 books. And it is way more than that. On top of the fact that a lot of the information was stolen from the Emerald tablets and I forget the other books. I think the Sumerian tablets, if I'm not mistaken, but the Emerald tablets for sure. So a lot of the text came from other places. It's not even like it's only organic to Christianity. It's like, no, this is shit that was here way before anybody even was talking about a Jesus or this or that. Like, and then when you look into how many different stories there are about the same similar story of Jesus that predate Christianity, like there are Greek gods that have the same story of Jesus that predate Christianity. There are Egyptian stories that have the same type of stories. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you have the right to believe whatever you believe, but to think that your way means that the whole world is supposed to operate a certain way is absolutely ridiculous. That's crazy. And that's one of the reasons why I left the church and I started to lean more towards spirituality. Because again, that shit is a cult. When you don't allow people to think for themselves or you condemn them for thinking for themselves or asking questions or, saying certain things don't make sense, baby, that's a cult. Like, ostracizing people for not sharing your beliefs, that's a cult. You know what I'm saying? Any group of people who believe that you should metaphorically be drinking blood, that's a little cultish. I don't care if it's a symbol or not. In the spiritual community, if we was all out here drinking fake blood, they would call us, well, they already call us witches and warlocks and all type of shit, but they would definitely think that we was on some wild shit. But because it's what you believe, it's just skipped over. No, babe, y'all are metaphorically drinking blood. That's cannibalism. Like, that's not normal. That's not a normal practice. That's a little cultish, you know? How does your mom feel about your knowledge? My mom be mad as fuck. So in the beginning, of course I started doing a lot of research, like behind closed doors. And then eventually you learn enough where you can't hide it, right? You learn enough where it's like, that shit just don't hit the same. Like sitting in church just didn't hit the same. Listening to my grandmother preach just didn't hit the same. So eventually, I started to tap into other things in my spare time that felt more sincere, that felt more natural to me. And I think I had posted that I had got some new books, and one of the books was talking about candle magic. And my mom had called me And I think that was the first time that she kind of saw that I was doing something a little different. And she called me like, what are you over there doing? You're over there conjuring spirits and you playing with the devil and blah, 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 and all this other shit. And I said, Mom, don't you light a candle before you pray? That would be technically called candle magic. That would be, quote unquote, a ritual. You know what I'm saying? Don't you take oil and anoint yourself and ain't it herbs in the oil for certain reasons, different herbs for different reasons? Babe, that's a ritual. That's called spell work. So I would, try to break it down to her in those types of ways. And she was not having it. You know what I'm saying? It's like a cognitive dissonance. And I think most Christians are just scared of going to hell, which is why they do their best to commit themselves to it so much, so hard, and be so gung-ho about it, because they're just scared. A lot of people are scared of what happens after death. So they basically live their lives, beating other people down about it so that they feel more secure in their decision. It makes them feel better, honestly, because they're scared. They're terrified. I'm not scared of death because I understand what death is. I understand that nothing dies. I understand that we are pure energy. So I'm not afraid of that. And once I let go of that fear, it freed me from caring about my mom's opinions or caring about what my family thought about my decisions, or like I didn't care no more, because it's like, who are you to try to push me into being afraid? You know what I'm saying? Or they'll say, Jesus is coming back and you gotta be ready. I'm like, y'all been saying that shit for thousands of years. Like what? And if Jesus came back, you think that he would be happy with y'all? Why would he be happy with y'all when he came and told y'all not to be religious? When he came and told y'all not to, he who's without sin cast the first stone. When he came and told y'all not to worry about these priests and these preachers and all of these things, y'all think he would be happy with the way that y'all are? Y'all think that y'all gonna be on the first boat to heaven? Like, what? No, babe. If anything, y'all niggas, according to the Bible, would go to hell quick as shit if that was the case. So it's like, I don't necessarily believe the Bible as facts, but I do agree with the points of Jesus. That's why, they call it Christ consciousness, because Christ was more spiritual than anything. If Jesus was to come back right now, y'all would call him a warlock. Y'all would say that he's doing witchcraft. Let's be honest. Y'all wouldn't think that, oh, this is the return of the Son of God. No, y'all would say that nigga is doing witchcraft. We need to hang. Y'all would probably put him back on the cross, if we're being honest. Because that's what y'all do to spiritual people right now. The same shit. Y'all do that shit to spiritual people right now. So it's like, no, if he really was to come back, y'all wouldn't even identify him as the Son of God. Y'all would look at him as a damn witch. The things that Jesus was doing in the Bible, healing the sick, helping the blind see, raising the dead, literally calling somebody back from the dead, y'all wouldn't look at him like, oh, he's the Son of God. Hell no. Y'all be ready to burn him at the stake immediately. So it's like, I don't know. I've learned. I used to be really angry about it because I felt like I lived a lot of my life judging other people. Like, Christianity made me super judgmental. Growing up in the church made me super judgmental. Like, super. It's like a superiority complex. Like, I thought I was better than everybody. I thought that, I had all the answers and I knew the way and, all of that shit. And it stopped me from seeing people as people. It stopped me from being understanding and being compassionate and forgiving and, having an actual human experience. I felt really upset when I first, quote unquote, woke up or came into awareness, because I just felt super guilty about a lot of the people that I should have helped and been more loving and kind to. And rather than that, I, was not the best person to them. I love y'all. God's not the church. God is God. He's not the cult. The church is when the Holy Spirit is missing. I don't know. I feel like a lot of y'all are just saying what y'all was taught, and that's cool. Um, that's how I was too. I would just repeat shit that I heard. Um, and again, when a person doesn't have anything to believe in, because I feel like in this life you gotta have something to hold on to. You know what I'm saying? There's so many things that happen. There's so many ups and downs. There's so many cycles that we go through. There's so many traumas and so much pain. Like, you want to have something to kind of ground you and something that you can kind of look forward to. And the idea of heaven sounds good to people who are having hellish experiences. You know what I'm saying? The idea of one day not feeling the pain that you feel sounds great to somebody who is currently in those situations. So I don't fault people for wanting to believe in something or wanting something to hold on to. I just feel like when you get to a point where you think that your way is right and everybody else is wrong and you have all the answers, that's when you start fucking up. And that's when that shit is a cult. Like, spirituality is very free because there's no one way to do it. And that's why I love it, because it's about personal relationship with what you believe the source is. You know, I don't personally believe that God is the exact way it's depicted in the Bible. I don't see God as, a man that is in heaven sitting down and just pointing his finger and snapping his finger and making shit happen. Like, I don't see it like that, but I do see it as energy. I feel like God is overall energy. I always break it down like a cake. If you got a whole cake and you split that bitch in 4 pieces, it's 4 pieces of cake. It doesn't change what it is. It's still cake. It's just smaller pieces. If you cut those 4 pieces into 8 pieces, it's still cake. Even though it's smaller pieces, it's still what it is. Cake. The cake is cake. And that's how I see it. I feel like God is the ultimate energy that we all come from. And we are just smaller representations or personifications of that overall energy, here to experience different things. Here to have different experiences and see different things and learn different things and contribute it all back to that source. So everybody don't see it that way, and that's okay. Like, everyone's entitled to their own beliefs and their own way of viewing things and shit like that. Yeah. I think it's the reason I found this live. I just told my family why I started following Christ. Okay. It's all a money game. Well, religion has definitely became a money game. Well, it was originally about money and power. You know what I'm saying? It was originally about money and power. That's why churches get tax cuts. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. They won't give you a business loan as a black person, but if you got a church, they'll give you a tax cut. You know? And then if we think about it, especially for my people, like, I don't be feeling no type of way when other races believe in Christianity and stuff like that. Like, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Because you can do what you want to do. But for my people, melanated beings, it's like, bro, especially for us to have been afflicted with slavery and different experiences like that, it's like, why would a slave master give your ancestors something that would help save their lives? That don't make no damn sense. You know what I'm saying? The only book that they could read was the Bible. Like, what? If that shit was really something that can help you, they wouldn't have gave it to you. Like, why would they give you something that can potentially free your soul when their whole point was to capture you? Like, there's so many layers to it that just didn't sit right with me. Were you discriminated by religious people? Absolutely. Absolutely. My family loved me. I mean, I feel like my family still loved me, but I was, one of the favorites when I was in church. Like, and that's why I say it's very cultish, because when you're in it, everybody loves you. Everybody's rooting for you. You know what I'm saying? You get treated a certain way. The moment that you kind of move away from that, woo, yeah. It's like you don't even know them people. Them people don't even know you. It's crazy. All my beliefs line up to the Bible, but I also don't believe God is a man in the clouds. Okay. Yes, I believe in energy manifesting everything. It so happens the Bible align with them also. And that's my point. Like, that's why I had to start not using the Bible as an end all be all, but using it as a reference, right? Just like how if you're writing a report, you may have several different books to prove your point, right? You may, like, if I'm writing a report about, I don't fucking know, melanin, right? I'm gonna have several different books that I can use as reference to prove whatever point I'm trying to prove. It doesn't mean that all of these books by themselves are all, whatever. But I can pull certain things from them to prove my point over here. And that's kind of like how the Bible is. It's like, I don't believe everything that's in there to be 100% fact. That's crazy. I wasn't there. None of us was there to say that this absolutely happened. Like, no, that's crazy. But I can use certain things to link it to other things that were written before the Bible and things that are true now. You know what I'm saying? And kind of use it as like a comparison tool or, whatever the case is. It's a great guideline for life. It's on us to read between the lines. I definitely agree with there's some great. Okay, so this is how I look at it. I look at it as like inspiration. Like, there's a lot of inspirational things in there. The same way I would read a book on like somebody else's experience, that's kind of how I would look at it. Like, I pull different things from it, but I don't look at it overall as like, you gotta believe everything that this says, and you gotta, like, I don't see it like that. But if there are certain things that I read and I'm like, damn, that's a really good story about faith, or that's a really inspiring story about forgiveness, shit like that. I don't know what my hat says. I've had it for a long time and I have no idea what it says. It's supposed to be a reflection of yourself within the Bible. I mean, like I said, there's certain things in the Bible where you can see yourself, you can relate, of course. But I feel like that's not just with the Bible that you can do that. There's so many other things that you could look at and relate to. There may be some things in the Quran that I can look at and relate to. There may be some things in the Torah that I can look at and relate to. There may be some things in Buddhism that I can look at and relate to. That's the beauty of spirituality. I can pull from whatever source, to kind of help guide me and help me find the things that I need in order to be successful. I don't have to commit my life to a religion or a certain belief system, to be accepted into anything. I can pull something from here, I can pull something from there. I can, watch a YouTube video. I can read somebody's book, somebody's autobiography, or whatever, what I'm saying, and find things that resonate for me, while also allowing my higher self, my inner God, to be my guide, right? And that's why I always preach, more than anything, building a relationship with yourself, because only you know what you need for your life. So if you have that relationship with yourself, you're able to kind of sort through a lot of what you read and a lot of texts and a lot of religions and a lot of, different things, in order to piece together what works for you in your life. That was cute. Thank you. And I never shun nobody about believing or not. It's just for me to show them ways to be better. I think that's subjective. Because how do you know that your way is better? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just kind of subjective. I feel like Christians' responsibilities is to help Christians because y'all share the same belief. Muslims' responsibility is to help Muslims because they share the same belief. Buddhist responsibility to help Buddhists because they share the same belief. It's not for any of those groups to go out and say my way is better and my truth is the ultimate truth and you need to hear it. It's like, no. That's why, like, in the spiritual community, we talk to each other. Now, if there's other people who may have questions, we'll fill them in. You know what I'm saying? There's other people who have, comments, concerns, remarks, whatever. We can have a conversation. But it's never to say, you don't know what you're talking about and my way is better or I know. Like, that's not really how we live. If anything, spirituality encourages people to find themselves. And through finding yourself, you'll find what's for you. Not necessarily to go out and find someone else or to rely on somebody else to give you what truth is. You only know what truth is by doing the work within yourself to figure out what truth is. Like, it just, it is what it is. And religion isn't like that. Religion is like an overall truth. Like, let me make sure. Do you have any religious friends? If yes, how do you manage that? So, and then I'm gonna get to your other question. I do have friends. I'll say there's people that I still know from being in church. I'll put it like that. Like, for me, because my family was the first family and we owned the church, my family was my friends because I've had to see them niggas every damn day, every week. So I may have had like one or two friends, like maybe in school, but for the most part, my cousins was my friends because we was in church every damn day, every week together. And we built those relationships because of that. And I still have great relationships with my cousins, you know what I'm saying? And even some of the quote unquote friends that I had from like just interactions in church, whether it was different churches that we went to and they went to, whether it was, I used to sing in my mom's gospel group, whether, we would travel and go to different places. So, you kind of build relationships through that. So, yeah, I'm still cool with them. But we don't really get into it, like we used to because of the fact that our beliefs are different. And I believe those are lifestyles, you know what I'm saying? It's a lifestyle choice. So if we don't really have nothing to talk about like that, you know what I'm saying? Because the way that I live my life is based on my beliefs. The way that they live their life is based on their beliefs. So it's like it kind of puts a line in the sand a little bit when it comes to having relationships a little bit. But we cool, if that makes sense. Question, would you say that astral projection showed you the truth of life, like eye-opening? That was, okay, so that's a great point because I've had spiritual gifts since I was like a little girl. I can remember astral projecting at a very young age. I'm talking about like 7, 8 years old. And growing up in church, you weren't really taught about gifts like that. That wasn't like there was no lessons to that. So I didn't really know what it was, and I would think that I was dreaming a lot of the times. I would think that there was nobody to really break it down to me, exactly what was happening and why it was happening and how to control it or how to tap more into it or how to understand it. So it was like I either thought I was dreaming sometimes or I would just be scared because I had no idea what was going on. And I knew I couldn't bring it up because in my family, they'd be quick to call some shit demonic. That's the devil, that's a demon, it's a spirit on you. Like, that shit would spook me. So I don't know. I didn't really have the guidance that I needed and should have had in regards to my spiritual gifts. So for a lot of my life, I just was in this weird, uncomfortable kind of like space of limbo. It's like I know what I'm feeling, I know what I see, but I don't really have anybody to talk to about it. Even my siblings, because I'm the only one of my mother's 3 kids that has my beliefs. You know what I'm saying? My mother's Christian. My little brother is Christian, and my middle brother, he's Christian, but they are, I don't want to say 7-Day Adventists because that's not what it is, but they just have it's like a different denomination. I don't know. That was another thing that disturbed me about Christianity. It's like if all y'all believe in the same Bible, the same book, how are all of y'all in different denominations? What the fuck? And then the denominations be beefing against each other, like who's right, who's wrong. I'm like, ain't all of y'all reading the same book? What? Like what? If you give 10 people the same book, it's the same book. Like, how did you get this denomination? Then they got this one. They Baptist, they Pentecostal, they this, they that, they this. And then they beefing against each other. Who's right, who's wrong? It's like, how do you expect to go out in the world and tell people you got the answers when y'all not even on one accord within the religion? Like, Muslims are just Muslims. You know what I'm saying? They believe what they believe, and everybody is kind of on the same page. It's just like, y'all over here, and everybody's all over the place. Everybody got their own ideology, their own, version, and how they think that shit should go. And it's so weird. It's so weird. If you just joined in, we're just talking about religion and spirituality, the differences of it. If you have any questions for me, feel free to put them in the comments. Make sure that y'all like the live, share the live, and follow. Once I get finished with this, I will restart the live and do a reading for the day. But we're going to stay on this topic for like maybe another 30 minutes. And then I'll do a reading for the day for those who want to come back and get into that. But yeah, I'm just making sure I didn't miss anybody's comment. Another thing that I was going to say is, like a lot of people say, no, it's supposed to be God's way. It's God's way. It's not, we're Christians, so it's all about what God wants. And it's like, if the Bible and Jesus came to push you to have a personal relationship with God, who are you to tell me that I'm not doing the will of God? You know what I'm saying? If I feel like I have a connection with the source, how can you come tell me that that's wrong? Or that I'm acting out of it wrong? You know what I'm saying? Like, every person in the Bible got their own personal messages from God and had to go do whatever they felt like God told them to do. So in modern day, how are you going to tell me that I'm not doing what God wants me to do if I feel like I got my own message from the source and I'm living my life that way and I'm taking the steps to, live out whatever that is? That's why I say, like, it's subjective, Like, I feel like the energy of God called me to do what I do now. But if you ask my mama or if you ask my grandma, they're going to be like, no, that's not God, that's the devil. Girl, what? Are you familiar with deliverance? Like, what about it? Like, being delivered from what? Sin? Or Jesus coming back? Like, what part of deliverance exactly are you talking about? And let me ask this. Put in the comments what age you either became religious or became spiritual. And you can put why as well in the comments if you want to. Thank you. And this conversation is not to, again, condemn anybody who does believe in religion. This is just to, open conversation. I feel like having conversation about it is so important as well. I feel like it was taboo to kind of talk about, I believe this versus I believe that, I'm big on seeing other people's point of views and, kind of bridging the gap. Strongholds and, yes, inheritance sins. Yes, so I was born and raised in church, so I used to see what they would call, we would have like deliverance services, or what they would call like praying out a demon or casting out a spirit. Like, I've seen that shit. I got stories for days. I've literally seen a lady's face change before my eyes. Like, real shit. You know, I have friends in church who have seen people climb walls. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen some wild shit in church. Like, crazy. Um, yeah, like, scary as hell type of shit, especially being at some of the ages that I was at. It's like, what the fuck? So I'm definitely familiar with, like, you know, deliverance or things of that nature. But I don't feel like that necessarily proves what most people would say that it proves. I think if anything, it proves possession. And possession has never been just a religious thing. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of tribes in Africa that purposefully use possession. They purposefully allow themselves to be possessed by spirits. And when you understand energy and you understand that these bodies are vessels and anybody can occupy this vessel, you know what I'm saying? You're not the only person that can occupy your vessel. That's why being protected and, you know, making sure that you're protected is very important. Because any spirit can come and occupy a weak vessel. These are nothing more than cars. It's like if somebody come and carjack you, anybody can get carjacked. You know what I'm saying? And there's certain things that you can do to help the original owner get their car back. That's how I see possession. You know what I'm saying? Or, what they call it? I can't think of the word. Damn, y'all know what I'm talking about. Now what's your thoughts on people who are atheists, don't believe in no higher power? I think that people who are atheists and don't believe in any type of higher power, whether that's energy or quote unquote God or any of those things, I don't know. I don't really think too much about it. I feel like everybody's entitled to whatever they perceive. Excuse me, at the time. I encourage everybody to, again, build a relationship with yourself. You know, as long as you have a relationship with yourself, I feel like you do have a relationship with God. You might not look at it that way, but I do. I feel like as long as you are tapped and tuned in with you, then you will always have a relationship with a higher power or a source. That's just how I see it. So I actually, you know, in the beginning of me gaining more information on religion, I would watch atheists because I was always open to the other side of things. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to hear other people's opinions. It wasn't just the, oh, this is this and this is that type of thing, and we only listen to people who believe in what we believe. It's like, no, I want to hear the people who don't believe what we believe. I want to hear the points that they make. I want to hear how they got to their conclusion. Like, very interested in others, you know, other opinions, and things of that nature. So I don't know. I don't really feel a way about it. I think that, you know, it's all about the research that they've done and how they've gotten to whatever they believe in, and it's their life. Who am I to say you know, gotta believe in the energy and you? I don't really think too much about it. We're just talking about the differences of religion and spirituality. What would you say the difference is between spiritual healers and pastors? Um, that's a good question. Spiritual healers, I feel like, are more focused on the soul and that particular soul and what that particular soul needs. Pastors are more focused on reinstating a belief. Like, they already are coming in with the bias to what the goal is. The goal is to live your life a certain way according to a Bible. Live your life a certain way according to the text, according to the religion. Versus a spiritual healer, their only goal is to help you heal. So there's different methods of achieving that. There's different ways to get that done. There's no specific course of action with a spiritual healer. You know, a spiritual healer may say, go take a spiritual bath, or light a candle, or do a ritual, or journal. You know what I'm saying? Or go have a conversation with yourself. You know, there's so many different methods that spiritual healers use, and it's all based on that person and what they're going through. Versus a pastor is going to pull all of their methods from a specific book, you know, and the goal is to get you on board with that book. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I believe all religions have truth, but it's a lot going on, like rules and BS, where the confusion is. Of course, because all religions are based on spirituality. You know, the original belief on this land was spirituality. It was never a religion. If anything, it was astrology. If anything, you know, dating back as far as the Egyptians, as far as the what we would call Native Americans or the indigenous people, like all of them always commonly shared the same ideals when it came to the stars and it came to astrology and the sun and the moon. Like that's the most common practice, honestly, of them all. Like everything kind of was built around that, so to speak, in a lot of different ways. So there's a reason why all religions kind of flow within each other or flow in and out of each other, because they all come from the same original practices and, you know, beliefs, if that makes sense. Raised in Christianity, but always had sight growing up, but no guidance. 6 years in on the journey. Yeah, a lot of us, you know, can look back now that we are spiritual and see like, damn, I've always been gifted. I've always had spiritual gifts. I always had insight. I always had intuition or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like we can look and see how spiritual we kind of always have been, you know? And then growing up in church, I never really felt connected to it. It was more like I was forcing myself to be connected to it, me personally. Other people may have felt more connected than I did, but I didn't feel connected to that shit. Like, if anything, like I said, I was terrified. I was scared. The only thing I was scared of was going to hell. So if you told me I needed to pray, I was going to pray. If you told me I needed to run around the church, I was going to run around the church. Anything to save me from the devil. You know, anything so that I ain't have to go to hell. I don't give a damn. Okay, if I had to do 5 push-ups and 7 jumping jacks, I was going to do that shit. Because I was just scared. And I feel like a lot of religion is based on fear. It's not really based on pure belief. It's fear-based. For some people, it may not be. That's why I said some people. But for the most part, most of the people that I've encountered growing up in church my whole life, a lot of it is fear-based. Like, one thing people always ask me is like, but you don't want to go to hell, but you better repent or you're going to go to hell. And it's like, it's always about hell. It's never about the belief in what it is. It's just about hell. Like, it's very hell-based. And it's like, that's not worth me dedicating my whole life to something because I don't want to go to hell. Like, no. Yes, babe, this is my account that I'll be going live from here on out. Another thing, what would you say to people saying don't believe everything on Google on topics, as in learning, proven accurate truth or topics? How do you know if it's fact? So this is why it's important to have a relationship with yourself, because everything that I've come to learn in spirituality has come from me feeling something internally, me having an intuitive feeling or me feeling guided towards something, and then the information will present itself as confirmation, if that makes sense. So it's nothing that I didn't feel first. It's nothing that I didn't already feel connected to first. It was always like something in me And then the things outside of me would come and be confirmation. The things that I learned or I read or I researched would come and be confirmation to what I feel already. Which is why I felt more connected to spirituality than I did religion. Religion was all about, these are the facts outside of yourself. And then you have to kind of get yourself to believe it. You have to get yourself to feel connected to it. It was like the reverse. Whereas spirituality, I felt it in me first. And then things outside of myself confirmed it and helped me feel more secure in what I felt. So again, relationship with self is what I promote 24/7. I'm never going to tell you to do. I'll give you tips on how to do certain things that have been useful for me and shit like that, but I'm never going to tell you that there's only one way to do certain things, or there's only one way to see certain things, or there's only one way to go about certain things, because we're all different and we're all guided intuitively to different things for a reason. So if you had that relationship with yourself, no matter what it is, you're going to be guided to what you need. You'll be guided to the information that is for you to have and decipher, and get more comfortable with. Religion. Oh wait, hold on. What holds you accountable to being good and doing good? That's a great question, and I feel like a lot of people, I don't know if you're religious or not, but a lot of religious people always ask me that question. Like, they don't ask it like that, but they'll say, like, without religion, how do you know the difference between good and bad? It's like, what holds me accountable is me. Like, wanting to be a good person, wanting to help and not harm, wanting to be positive, wanting to treat people the way that I would want to be treated. You know what I'm saying? And those are principles that really came from, that predate the Bible. The laws of Mayat were there before the commandments. And a lot of the laws of Mayat, which are Egyptian based, are basically the commandments. It's way more laws in Mayat than there is the commandments. So it's like, I feel like we have an internal knowing between right and wrong. Like, it gets shaped over time with experience, right? It's like, for example, as a kid, you may want to go touch a hot ass stove because you don't understand the consequences of touching a hot stove. But after you touch that motherfucker, you understand. You know what I'm saying? So experience coupled with just innate knowing, I feel like, helps me be accountable. And then also, going back to experience, knowing how things affected me makes me not want to affect other people in those ways or be responsible for other people feeling those things. You know what I'm saying? Religion is an earth business using the living trees for currency. I agree. I feel that with Christianity it felt forced. With spirituality, I felt that with Christianity it felt forced. With spirituality, and I didn't grow up in church. What are you saying, babe? Are you saying in Christianity it felt forced and spirituality it didn't? I'm trying to understand what you're saying. It's in you, not on you. Absolutely. But I feel like that's why we are here to experience, so that we can learn more of what's right and what's wrong, so that we can know how to go about different things. And then we also learn from each other. Like, that's why passing down knowledge is so important, and having the right knowledge to pass down. Like, especially with times changing, every new millennium or every new cycle or every new paradigm poses a different level of challenges for the people who live in that society. So you don't always have someone that you can kind of look to for guidance, because the world is always changing. So a lot of our ancestors don't have any guidance to give us in today's world necessarily on certain things, because they never had to experience those things themselves. But there are common things that we all kind of experience that they can give us guidance on. So I think that's why, us having a relationship with each other is also very important. Because we all have something to share. We all have something to give. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not just here to experience what we experience and then keep it to ourselves. It's like, no, you're here to experience what you're experiencing, to teach yourself, yes, number one, but then also to share that knowledge with other people as almost like, a guide to a certain extent, of what can happen if certain things go a certain way, or what can be the reality if, you do certain things. So it's a mixture of personal experience and shared experience that I feel like really helps us when it comes to knowing what's good and what's bad, and shit like that. The symbolic cross has pagan origins, of course. Spirituality felt forced when I was in it. Christianity has led me to my identity. I mean, if that's how you feel. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. Like I said, I feel like there's useful information in all beliefs and all ideologies. You know what I'm saying? I just don't see one over the other when it comes to religion. I feel like spirituality is one of the only things that connects everything. It's like a tree versus the branches. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a whole bunch of branches on the tree, but there's one base. You know what I'm saying? There's one overall. I don't know if it's a tree stalk. I don't know what you would call it, but y'all get what I'm saying. Like, there's so many different branches, but they're all connected to the same base. And that's kind of how I see it. I see spirituality as that base, and then religion is kind of like those branches or those different channels. But they all relate to spirituality. At the end of the day, it all comes back to spiritual beliefs and spiritual practices at the end of the day. Now, how would you explain with people who have never been through traumatic experiences? So, number one, I feel like everybody has gone through some sort of trauma, but everybody doesn't look at traumas the same. So a lot of people may not feel like they've been through specific traumas because you're looking at them to look a certain way. A lot of people think trauma is only like you've been physically abused or something, or, you got yelled at or cussed out, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, shit like that. Like, a lot of people think that that's just the realm of trauma. And it's like trauma shows up in so many different ways. You know what I'm saying? Like I talk about how my grandmother, not my mom's mom, not the pastor, but my father's mom, who was a part of raising me, she is the sweetest lady you would ever meet. Okay? I mean, like, she like one of them sweet old ladies that when they do finally say a curse word, it's like the most hilarious thing, because you know that they don't cuss. And you know that they really mad because they don't even do that type of shit. Like, she's like that type. But she traumatized me in a way by teaching me fear. She was very afraid of, like, basic shit, like, after school, of course, growing up in the 90s and the 2000s, you would go outside and you would play. You would go outside, you would play and have a good time. Thank you for the gifts. And enjoy yourself and things of that nature, stuff like that. She would be scared, and I would be right outside the house, And as an adult, I learned going through, like, my teenage years and my adult years, my early 20s, I would be scared to do certain things, and I didn't realize how traumatic that was for me when it came to making decisions in my life. You know what I'm saying? No, I mean, as if, for example, your depression is because God did that to test you, something like that. Be outside of religion. How would you explain your depression is because... Oh, so you mean like when people say that they went through things because God is trying to test them or whatever like that? That's a sticky slope. Like, I don't believe that based on religion that God is up there pulling strings, and I mean, according to the Bible, technically that's what it would be. If you're looking at it from a religious point, like people who have cancer or people who go through certain things, like, it would be because of God, because God creates everything. He controls everything based on religion, that is, right? So if you had cancer, it's because God wanted you to have cancer. Like if you lost the siblings, because God wanted you to lose a sibling. You know what I'm saying? Like based on the Bible, that would be the explanation. But from a from a spiritual standpoint, I feel like we're all here to experience different things for different reasons. I feel like if, let's say, for example, your experience was cancer, I feel like there's something within that realm of things. It could be one or two things based on my beliefs, right? And everybody that's spiritual may share a different belief. But I think that either there's a lesson for you to learn from that. There's something for you to take from that and share with other people, and kind of use your life as an example almost. Or I believe in reincarnation. So sometimes things happen because of what you did in other lifetimes. I feel like you can't escape your wrongdoings, and sometimes they catch up with you in other ways. So for me, it can be like one or the other, honestly. Hold on, let me go back. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. But I still want to understand those in spirituality. That's a good thing. I feel like that's I don't mind Christians like that, who are open to seeing things from another point of view. Because I feel like the only time I would judge somebody is when they are not open to learning. I feel like anybody who thinks that they know it all, hey babe, anybody who thinks that they know it all and they have all the answers, those are the only type of people that I don't respect. Those are the only type of people that I don't fuck with. Those are the only type of people that I will judge. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care. Yes, this comment right here. Those are the only people that I'm judging hella hard, because a wise person knows that we're always learning. And I think that's what separates spiritual people from religious people as well, is the fact that we're open to new knowledge. We're not proclaiming or confessing to know every single thing. We're open to evidence. We're open to other perspectives. We're open to being wrong. We're open to gaining more knowledge or gaining more understanding or seeing it from a different perspective, or learning somebody else's point of view, things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of the things that I believed when I first tapped into spirituality have shifted over the course of me really learning myself more, hearing from other people, listening to my intuition. Like, I've developed a lot of my beliefs. So the way that I came into it is not how I am now. And I know that by the time I take my last breath, it'll be completely different as well. Because that's just how life is supposed to be, It's like, that's why I feel like you have a lot of people that believe in science, not because they don't really believe in the quote-unquote higher power, but because they're open to moving with proof. You know what I'm saying? If this can be proven, cool, I'll adjust. If something else comes out that shows this and shows that, cool, I'm going to adjust my belief. You know what I'm saying? If there's proof to show me that this specific mentality is outdated and no longer has any type of solidity, truth or whatever to it, and now this is being shown to be more accurate, I don't mind shifting my belief. I don't mind, moving over to something else. You know what I'm saying? No, I've been on here for a little while. You a little late, boo. But it's okay. We still got some time. But yeah, like, I don't mind. You know what I'm saying? We are here to experience and to learn. We're not here to say one size fit all. Especially with the longer we're here on this or in this realm, there's going to be more information, more knowledge that we receive. There's people who were spooked. Again, there's certain tribes right now that if you went and bought them a cell phone, they would be like, what in the witchcraft sorcery is this? You know what I'm saying? They're sitting somewhere still lighting fires and using oil lamps or something, you know what I'm saying? You bring their ass a cell phone, they're like, what the fuck is this? Right? So it's just like you never know all that there is to know. There's always more to it. But based on how they're living right now, they're correct. You know what I'm saying? They're correct with fires. They're correct with an oil lamp or whatever. It's fine. It's correct. But once they're presented with electricity, they would have to upgrade their knowledge based on electricity. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I kind of see it. Like we know what we know until we know something different. And if you close yourself off from adjusting when you get more information, more knowledge that can be proven, and you don't want to acknowledge it because you're stuck in whatever way you're stuck in, that to me is when you failed. That's when you failed the mission. My personal belief. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you should always be learning. You should always be growing. You should always be adapting based on not just willy-nilly. That's why I say proof. You know what I'm saying? Based on something that can be proven, something that can be shown, something that you can see for yourself. Not just no he say, she say. You know what I'm saying? Like, what can I experience myself? You know what I'm saying? It's like in school when you learn math, 1 + 1 = 2. But you had to show me that. I have to see how 1 and 1 becomes 2. You can't just tell me that, and I'm just gonna be like, oh yeah, let me go start telling everybody 1 + 1 = 2. It's like, no, show me on paper, show me with the blocks. Y'all remember the little blocks that we used to have for counting? I don't even think they do that shit no more. That was in the 90s. But the little styrofoam little boxes that we would have, little cutouts that we would use to count and shit like that. Like, there's multiple different ways I can prove that 1 and 1 is 2. You know what I'm saying? So I can adapt that belief. I can take that on as truth. But if somebody just told me that and never showed me in multiple ways that it can be done, I'm not just going to go and run with it. And that's kind of how I view life. You know, once I know something is better and there's proof to it and it works and it's proven and, you know, the experience is proven, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with it. I have no problem adjusting my belief system. I have no problem, you know, altering what I used to know and updating it with what I now know. Plus, the thing about God made the world in 7 days sounds very unrealistic. What's your view? I think that's just a Christian belief. None of us know how this world came into being. I feel like it's dishonest and disingenuous, I think that's the word, to say that you for sure know how the world came to be. Like, that's crazy to me. You know, that's diabolical. Especially if you want to go based on proof and, you know, the text that was here even before the Bible, then you will be talking about Yaqub and some other shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would take you completely out of the religious understanding of it all. Like, if we really got into what the original people believed about how we got here, it would be completely different. So I just think that's disingenuous to say my religion knows how this happened. It's like, don't nobody know how this shit happened. We have no idea how this energy transformed into all of these different things. But I do in some way have a belief that it was similar to like how we're born. You know, one cell doubles, then triples, then quadruples, then continues to build and build and build and build and build until now it's a person. You know what I'm saying? And I felt in some sorts of ways that may have been how things happen, but there's no proof. None of us have the proof. Who are the original people? Melanated beings. Melanated beings were on every single corner of this realm first. And if we're going according to the oldest bones or body that they found was a woman. It was a black woman. So we know that the oldest person here at least was a black woman. We know that for a fact. Her name is Lucy. You can look it up. There is no other there's no other corpse, I'll say, older than Lucy, which is, a black body, one of the oldest preserved black bodies that we found, older than the Egyptians, the mummies, and all of that, way older. So, with the information we know it was a black woman. Yep, Lucy. Yep, spelled just like that. Yep. And if I'm not mistaken, they quote unquote found her on the moon. I could be wrong, but I believe that's what it was. I'm not sure if it was in Africa or not. I'm not 100% sure of that. But if you go research Lucy, it's the oldest findings that we have of human life. And then if you look at the DNA of a black woman, it is the most advanced DNA on this planet. Black women are the only women on this planet that have the DNA to create life in different shades, different colors, different everything, different features. The mitochondrial Eve gene, which is where I feel like they got Eve from. Then you have Adam. They spelled it Adam, Adam, in the Bible, but I see it as Atom, Atom. And if you look at Adams, Atom, and you look at the mitochondrial Eve gene, which I think they got Eve from, those are accredited to black women. So, my bad, y'all. I felt like my little shit was getting a little dull. But yeah. That's how I see it personally. That's why I feel like you can't negate science. Yes, baby, this will be on YouTube. You can't negate science. Science is such a huge part of proving things. So for people to just be blindly believing things, without at least considering certain scientific things, like science is based on proof. It's not just, there's a lot of hypotheses, but the things that, most of it is based on proven fact. And it is proven with the Eve gene that black women have superior DNA. That's just a fact. It just is what it is. Let's see. Making sure I didn't miss anything. Look like Caliprat. I've heard that so many times. What was their belief in? Who you talking about, babe? Like I said, the further back we go, the more the beliefs were based in astrology and stuff like that. The further back we go, the more modern we get, then that's when you start to see religion become popular. But a lot of stuff was just energy and astrology. That's why I started to study dang, I can't think of the name right now. It's slipping. But the study of energy and quantum physics and things of that nature, but mixed with, that's why I say don't, dispel science. Science is so important, I feel like everything works together to help prove the next thing. You can't have one without the other. Like, you have a lot of religious people or spiritual people. There's a lot of spiritual people too that would be like, oh, we're spiritual beings, so don't pay attention to politics. We're living in the fifth dimension, so don't pay attention to politics. Don't pay attention to, the world. All of it is fake. It's a false reality. It's like, bruh, you need to know. You need to know what's going on around you. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of whatever you believe, they still putting shit in the water. Like, it doesn't change the fact that it's just poisoning our food. So you need to know what's going on. It doesn't change the fact that big pharma and medication is killing us and has been for a long time. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, what? You can't be so religious or so spiritual that you lose reality. That's like the most detrimental thing that you can do. It's so many things that, again, connect to each other. Like, even being a spiritual person, we understand that the vessel is important. So I know whatever I put in my vessel doesn't only affect me on a physical level, but it also affects me on an energetic level. So to ignore those things and to be like, I'm in the 5D, I'm so above this, I'm so above that, it's like, that's leading people astray. I feel like that's you're no better than someone who is uber religious. Like, you're basically the same person. Like, no, we need to be paying attention to everything. It all affects us. Oh, I don't pay attention to politics. They pick all the presidents and it don't matter. That could be true, but whatever them presidents decide will affect your ass. It's gonna affect the economy. It's gonna affect how you have the way that you live your life. It's just you. I feel like you should know a little bit about everything. That's how I always put it. Everything is spiritual, absolutely. It was about how life and the world came to be. Is that what I meant? Is what I meant by what was their belief? You mean the original people? There's a few stories that they claim date back to the original people. I think the story of Yaqub is one of them. Some of them believe, in extraterrestrials and played a part in us being here. That's why, and some of the ancient temples, they have aliens depicted on the wall. So who knows? Do you think a person can be in church, but still be on the spiritual side, if that makes sense? Yeah, sure. I mean, in the beginning of my spiritual journey, I still went to church. Not necessarily because I would take everything that was being said or preached about as reality or as truth. You know what I'm saying? But mostly for like the inspiration and the community aspect of it. Like, I liked being around other people. I liked the music. Like, if there was not necessarily a church, but if there was like a weekly gathering for spiritual people, I would go. The same way Christians go to church every Sunday, I would go. Like, I feel like most of us would probably go. Because when that sense of community is so important, no matter what you believe in. Being able to be around people who share your beliefs and kind of rub shoulders and get that inspiration, having someone to get up there and speak. I think that's why church is so popular. Because, those people get up there and if it's the right pastor, baby, you going to leave feeling inspired. You know what I'm saying? They put them words together, and that shit is like, wow, I really needed that, It doesn't necessarily mean that you believe everything they said about the stories that they may have spoke on, but the message, I think the message is what helps people continue to come back. And then also, the music, especially for us melanated people, we love music, and church music be cranking, okay? Like, we not even about to fake. No, I'm from DC. Church music, what? That should get you lit. You know what I'm saying? Everybody on one accord, everybody singing, everybody, clapping, everybody together. Like, that feeling, I think, brings a lot of people back to the church versus versus just the Bible itself, or versus just religion itself. Like, I feel like more people come for that, so that they don't feel alone in what they're going through, and that they can get some type of inspiration and have a good time, something to look forward to. I'm trying to read y'all questions in order, so give me a minute if I'm a little behind. But I want to get through everybody. Astrology, cosmology, metaphysics originated from us non-ether beings. Absolutely. Have you looked into the story of Yeshua, and if yes, what information did you collect from it? What do you mean, like? Because some people call Jesus, some people call him Yeshua. I don't really. I guess it's just a preference. I don't know. I don't think that there's necessarily a difference in the story or the origin of the story. Would the spiritual community gathering have a smoking section? I'm crying. I don't see why I couldn't, because it's spiritual. So, honestly, I don't see the issue with Christians smoking. There's nothing in the Bible that talks about smoking at all. Like, there's no scripture that says anything about smoking, anything. It says something about drinking, but there's really no scripture that talks about smoking. So I don't see why not. Y'all are silly. I wonder why the spiritual community is not together like the church community. I think it's because, number one, I feel like it was more so at one point in life, but the more religion, because you gotta remember, religion was forced. A lot of it was forced. It wasn't the decisions of a lot of people to be religious. Like, Christianity unallowed a lot of people to force them to be Christians. Like, it wasn't a thing where it was just like, hey, we learned some new information, y'all, come check it out. It was like, you either gonna be a Christian or we gonna, like, there wasn't really a decision for a lot of it. So that, over a period of time creates tradition. And there's a lot of tradition when it comes to religion, which is why it's more popular when it comes to gatherings and stuff like that. And I think for us, specifically melanated people, due to slavery, that was like one of the only times we can kind of congregate with each other. So, and our community is very popular, which is why there's a church everywhere in the hood. There's a church somewhere, a church and a liquor store. You're going to find those in the hood all the time. But it became popularized amongst our people because, again, that was the only time we can kind of come together and we can chill. We can, whatever, So I think I would love, and one of my goals is definitely to start something like that, where you can kind of come in person and get some of the same feel of community and share your experiences or whatever, something like once a week. I want to do that personally for myself and the community that I'm building. And hopefully, it becomes something that can be popularized amongst the spiritual community eventually. That would definitely be a goal for us to have that type of environment. I feel like it's very healthy to have and necessary, because you have a lot of people who are spiritual, but because it's not as many as the religious people, a lot of spiritual people feel ostracized and alone. So my whole goal has always been for what I do and for my community to make people feel less alone in their spirituality. Hey, everybody joining. For people to feel more secure and accepted, and, less ostracized or less penalized for their belief systems. I'm curious, when and how did you realize the gift you had? Um, so like I was saying before, I've always been gifted. I've always had certain gifts as a kid, but I didn't have the structure or the people around me to teach me what it was or how to tap into it. So it wasn't until I started to study spirituality that I started to see like people explain it and then give it a name. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what I was doing. Like I would, again, the example I gave earlier, I would astral project all the time as a kid. Like, and it would be in the same type of way. It will always be when I was, because I always stayed up late. I'm to this day, I'm a night owl. Been a night owl since I was a fucking baby, like literally. So I will always be up later than everybody else. And because of that, I would go to sleep in the wee hours of the rising and then have to wake up in a couple of hours to go to school. So I would always astral project during those times when I was really, really tired. Because I can remember like my mom or whoever coming into my room to wake me up. And I would get up and brush my teeth, wash my face, put my clothes on. I can, see my brother doing whatever he doing. I can see my mom doing whatever she doing. I can see everybody's outfit. I can see everybody's hairstyles. I can see everything that's going on. And then I would wake up to my mother really knocking on the door, for real, for real. So it was like, I would be so confused. Like, bro, I could have sworn I was just in the bathroom washing my face. Like, what the fuck is going on? It would trip me out so bad. And my mom would have the same thing that I seen while I was astral projecting is the same thing that was actually happening in the house. Like, the same clothes, the same everything. That's why I would be so confused. Because it's like, I could have sworn that I was really up, and then I wake up and I'm literally still in the bed in my night clothes. And I would just be so confused. My mother would be yelling at my ass, like, didn't I tell you to get up? And I'm like, I could have sworn I got up. But when I learned, like, astral projection is your soul separating from the body, it started to make sense as an adult. Because it's like my body was so tired that I would separate and my soul would do everything and my body would still be in the bed. So like it didn't make sense to me as a child. My mother wasn't there to, I couldn't tell my mother that shit. She would tell me either I'm tripping or it was a dream, or she would say it would have to connect to the devil in some type of way. That's just how I was raised. Something had to be the devil. Yeah, I can control it better now. I don't do it as much now as I used to unless I'm trying to purposely do it. And yeah, I still don't control it as much as I would want to. It's like a process of really getting it like controlled. But I have more control over it than I did before, because I would just accidentally do it before. Yeah, a lot of us had those experiences as children, even down to like, I've always been very intuitive. Like my whole life, I was very intuitive. Like a lot of my family didn't understand why I didn't like certain people or why I didn't trust certain people or why I would say certain stuff about certain people. And then it would always come back that I was right. And I didn't understand that that was intuition. I didn't understand that that was foresight. I just thought, sometimes I would think that I was just being mean and I just didn't have a reason of why. Like, it didn't really make sense to me until I started doing my research, and I'm like, oh, I'm just an intuitive, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh. When astral projecting, what did you see or feel? Like color, sound? When astral projecting, it feels like it would if you was awake. I can feel everything. I can feel the water on my face. I can see everything clear as day. I can hear everything clear as day. It's like everything is the same except you're not in your body. That's the only difference. It's like if anybody has ever had an out-of-body experience, like some people have it like if they like was in a coma, or if they had like a crazy near-death experience, they may disassociate. You can even do it during meditation. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot of ways that it can happen without you necessarily controlling it. But it's the same. Like, that's why when I would wake up, I would be so confused because everything felt like it was just regular until you wake up and you realize I wasn't just doing what I thought I was doing. I wasn't physically doing it. And that's another thing that makes me, know that the spiritual realm is real, because there's a lot of spirits. Like, I've seen spirits as well. I can hear spirits. So there's a lot of spirits around us that we can't necessarily see, but they're there, So I feel like when when you go to sleep, or if you astral project, or if you lucid dream, or any of those things, all you're doing is leaving the body behind and just existing as a soul with whatever you're doing, the same way other spirits would without a body. It's like you just leaving one realm to step into another one. In depth. And did you have internal knowledge? What you mean? Also, do you feel like astral projecting is based on your mind, like the experience, or no? I think I think it's something that anybody can do, but I think it's a gift to be able to do it, if that makes sense. It's like singing. Like, a lot of people can sing, but a lot of people can't sing. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how I see it. It's like we as beings have the ability to do a lot of different things, but some of us are more gifted in those areas than others are. It doesn't mean that other people can't do it. It just might take a little bit more to do it, or it may not be the same, if that makes sense. That's how a lot of people end up in the crazy house trying to explain their gifts to others. Hell yeah. And that's because we moved out of spirituality and we moved into religion. And when you base it off of religion, it's not a positive thing. It's not positive anymore. Now it's, either negative, or because they can't necessarily explain it, you look crazy. But go look up, you can literally go to the CIA website and look up a portal on there called Stargate, okay? And it literally is hundreds of thousands of documents that talk about so many different things that comes to spirituality, and how the CIA was using mediums to astral project and to, do certain things to collect secrets or to complete missions, or how they were using psychics, or it breaks down like the proof that the spiritual realm is real. Like, there's so much information that these people know, but they won't tell you, because it gives you a different power, and it gives you a different understanding of yourself. And this world right now is all about being dependent on who and what they want you to be dependent on in order to control you. So the more that you kind of dive deeper into the knowledge of things and the information, and you see that for real, they know the truth about the spiritual realm. That's why you keep hearing so much about portals now. That's why you're hearing so much about quote-unquote aliens and extraterrestrials and all of this stuff. Like, they've known this shit for years. This shit has been documented forever. Like, none of this is new. It's just now certain energies are just so strong, and certain things are out of their control to the point where it's nothing they can do about it. So now they have to kind of control the narrative. Like, they can't stop you from seeing a UFO. So now they have their own UFOs that they fly around so they can control the narrative. They can't stop you from seeing certain spirits or having certain spiritual encounters. So they try to control the narrative. So it's like they can't really, they don't have the control, which I feel like is why spirituality is making the comeback that it's making, because they don't have the control that they used to have. People are seeing things for themselves, researching for themselves, and then having their own experiences. And you can't tell nobody they're wrong based on their experience. You know what I'm saying? If somebody's seen a spirit, you can't tell them that they didn't see it. Like, how can you tell me what I saw and what I didn't see? Like, how you trying to convince me? But, like, people who are schizophrenic, I don't think schizophrenia is necessarily like a negative thing. I think it's just people who are spiritually gifted and they don't have the resources to learn about their gift or to tap in with their gift or to perfect their gift. They're able to see in different dimensions at one time. They're able to see multiple realms at one time. So they can see spirits, they can hear spirits, you know? And it may look crazy to you because you can't see or hear what they see or hear. But I think they're just gifted. I think they just have a gift that they don't understand. It's just like when they had the witch trials, these people was healing people with herbs and, you know, using crystals and different shit, and they burnt their ass up because they couldn't understand why certain things were certain things. It's just like, you know, you can't really tell anybody about their experience. And because us melanated beings specifically are spiritual beings, we are energy, you know, we have different experiences than other people. It is what it is. And a lot of people go through their lives without having an understanding of why they feel what they feel, why they see what they see. And a lot of people never share it. Like, that's why you see a lot of people leave the church and then they start to be more vocal about their gifts, and they find people and they connect with people and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know that this was normal. I didn't know that you did this too. I didn't know that this was possible for you either. You know what I'm saying? It's like a astonishing thing. Like, they're just so surprised. Like, oh my God. But it's like, yeah, if it was more accepted for us to talk about what we experience and then not be deemed negative, then you would hear more about those types of stories and those types of things. It would be more normalized. And I feel like we're going back to that slowly but surely, where spiritual gifts are becoming more normalized, where people are outsourcing more, and gravitating more to spirituality, you know, even down to like herbalism. Herbalism is a spiritual practice. Healing the body with herbs, that's a spiritual practice. That's not a religious thing. That's a spiritual practice. And a lot more people herbs have become a huge thing. You can't scroll too many times on TikTok now without somebody selling some type of herbal supplement. Whether it's maca root, fenugreek, beetroot, this root, that root, sea moss, this, that. I mean, you can't scroll too many times without seeing that stuff now. Whereas before, everybody put their faith in modern day medicine. It was all about going to the doctors and getting a prescription. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that stuff is starting to make a return. Like, it's starting to come back. You see manifestation is on the rise. Like, we've never heard, and I'm a 90s baby, I've never heard manifestation mentioned so many damn times until like after 2020. Like, what? Everything is manifest this, manifest that, manifest this, manifest that, manifestation, manifestation. It's like, what the hell is going on? Right? Or what else? I mean, there's so many different things that are being popularized now. Like, now a lot of the younger generation talking about aura. Aura is a spiritual thing. You know what I'm saying? Aura, or they're not using it necessarily with the spiritual sense. I don't think a lot of them knows where it comes from. But just the word itself being thrown around the way that it is, it's like you would have never heard that shit growing up in the 90s and the 2000s. Like, that was not popularized. Your aura, like, what? Hell nah. Or energy. You know, everybody is big on energy now. Oh, I'm big on energy. I don't play about my energy. Energy this, energy that, energy this, energy that. So it's like spirituality is slowly becoming more popularized than it has ever been in modern day history. And a lot of people who want to maintain control are trying to find ways to control it, but I don't think it's something that you can control. How do you know the 7 chakras, energy healing, EMF protection pendant necklace? Is it real? Is it authentic? Well, again, a lot of that stuff, like I said, go to that CIA website, the government CIA website, and look up Stargate. EMF waves, chakras, energy centers, your third eye, or your pineal gland, like all of that stuff is documented. It is documented. They was doing tests, like proven, like hooking people up to machines and reading the frequency waves coming off of them and shit like that. Like, you know, getting people to literally astral project to different places and get information, and then it would go confirm the information and be like, how the fuck, you know what I'm saying, to like see the validity of it all. So it's like all of that stuff is proven. Yes, MK Ultra is very real, even down to sacred geometry. Sacred geometry affects us more than you know, and a lot of these inner cities, quote unquote the hood or downtown areas, look at the tops of these buildings, the shapes of these buildings, they all give off certain energy. Everything is energetic. So down to the shapes of things, they give off a certain energy, and you can manipulate shapes to manipulate the people who live in that area. So that's why a lot of inner cities are the way that they are. You know what I'm saying? That shit gets deep. That's why I say, don't just look at one thing and then be like, that's it, I'm not learning nothing else. No, you need to learn about everything that you possibly can, because it's all connected. How do I type it, like Stargate chakras? No, so what you do, go to CIA, what is it, CIA.gov, CIA website. I think it's CIA.gov. I have no idea. I think that's the web address. And then there's going to be, let me see. I'm going to do it from my other phone and tell y'all exactly how to do it. All right, Safari. CIA. Yep, CIA.gov. And then you can go to the search bar at the top, and I'm going to type in Stargate. How did I get to it? Hold on. Let me try it this way. CIA. Stargate. Okay, so you can just type in CIA Stargate in like your search bar, Google or whatever. And you're gonna click on, it's gonna say Stargate CIA FOIA. All right, you're gonna click that link, and it's gonna take you to a page that looks like this. There's a search bar at the top where you can type in different keywords and stuff. But there are numerous of pages that you can scroll through. And like, let's say, for example, let me turn up my brightness. Let's see. I'm going to type in. So I typed in astral in a little search bar. So it's a search bar right here. I typed in astral and hit search. first thing that comes up, it says Soviet and something parapsychology research, and it'll show you the words that are mentioned in it. So it says astral projection is mentioned in this particular thing. So you click on it, it's going to show you a summary or breakdown of what this document is. And then where it says attachment, that's where the actual CIA document is. So you can click the attachment, and it's going to give you literally all of the information on that particular document. Some things may be redacted, some, but yeah, there's so much freaking information on here. It's crazy. Like one day I spent maybe like 4 hours just scrolling and reading and scrolling and reading and scrolling and reading, and just, it can be a little overwhelming because there's so many pages to it, so much information that you can kind of read through. But yeah, that's how you get to that. And on the side of it, of the Stargate portal, they have like a lot of different links on the side that you can look up if you want or click on. It's a lot of crap in here, bro. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. So it's nothing that you can kind of get through. It would take more than a year for you to get through everything on that website. Because I think if I'm not mistaken, when Trump got in office the first time, he kind of made it a thing that the CIA has to release documents, a certain amount of documents every year or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, he set it up like that so that people can start to do the research and get information that they're owed. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're owed all information. There should be nothing necessarily kept from us as a people. You know what I'm saying? Like, so a lot of them don't believe that they should tell us certain shit that's happening. They don't believe that we should have the knowledge that we have or have inside information to certain things that are going on. And some of it I can kind of understand, because they don't want to create a panic with certain things. Like, if we knew every single thing that was going on all the time, a lot of people would probably be panicked all the time and fucking scared as hell. So, it's like a toss-up 50-50. Like, I understand both perspectives. Very Gemini of me. But I get both sides. But I feel like, we should have certain information, especially melanated people. I feel like a lot of our information specifically has been hidden from us on purpose. And if we knew more of what they didn't want us to know or what they've been hiding, it would help us understand ourselves more and understand who we are a little bit more, and help us get to a better place within our community. So yeah, that's that. Any final questions before I hop off of here? I won't be doing a reading today because we spent most of our time having this little chit chat, which I don't mind. This will be posted on YouTube. I'm gonna put my YouTube in the comments for those who want to watch it from the beginning, or who want to who may have missed certain things. I'm going to also put my website in the comments for those who want to book any services or just check out the services that I have available. Next day live, may you speak on relationships like toxic and healthy communication, how men move, etc. Yeah, so we'll do more interactive lives like this on different topics for sure. Just kind of let me know what topics y'all want to go over, y'all want to cover. If y'all want to come up, and join the live and kind of give your personal perspectives on certain things, or we do a panel, you can do that as well. I might just do a panel type discussion once a week anyway. Just to engage more with y'all and, for it to be more interactive. So just let me know what topics y'all want to talk about, and we can kind of go from there. I can, set it up a little bit better so that we can do that. And yeah, that's what we used to do on my original TikTok anyway. So I'm going back to some of those things. Us having those conversations and interacting a little bit more. So yeah, definitely that. Make sure that you follow, make sure that you like, make sure that you support. Definitely also subscribe to the YouTube so that you can watch this back from the beginning, or you can rewatch it or catch up on the parts that you missed. All videos are posted to YouTube. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Light and love to everybody. Y'all be safe, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Peace.